Basketball talk is back. I know people needed it back. I needed it back. No Dunks is here to talk about the men's Olympic teams, the U.S., Canada, Greece, France, Serbia, Australia, and more. A couple NBA transactions, 3x3 basketball that's happening. And to do it, it's the man in the middle, Trey Kirby.
USAO!
USAO! And the man producing, we'll hear his thoughts. It's Achiuwa Kid. What's up, Ash?
How y'all doing, man?
We're great. We're wonderful. I'm Tas Bells. It's good to be back. First of all, I know Skeets has been doing some ball talk on the nightly Olympics shows. Skeets, Nora, and JD doing a lot of sports talk. I mean, that is just front to back. The Summer of Champions is fun. And if you like, I don't know, fencing they were talking about. I know JD is into surfing.
He's a big surfing guy.
Yeah.
I think he's been watching a lot of badminton. I know that we've been going crazy in the pool. Last night, a lot of great stuff happened with Katie Ledecky, Leon Marchand, Pan, I believe, set a world record as well. But nothing can top Katie Ledecky seeing that girl in the crowd and her response to actually seeing Katie Ledecky see her. Oh, man. Special moment. And yeah, the podcast has been awesome. Summer of Champions returns tonight, right? 7 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what we got going on today, but probably talking surfing, I imagine.
Yes. I went through all the glossary of surfing because I didn't know what all these words meant. It was pretty fun. Like, the pit is when you enter the barrel of a large wave. You enter the pit. The upper part of the wave is the lip, like right before the break. And then when the water sprays out from the barrel, it's called spit. Spitting. So it's good. I liked it. I didn't think I'd like surf words. I didn't think I'd care, but they're not bad.
Still a mystery to me what the wave ball is. They're always talking about getting caught in the wave ball. I don't know if it's good or bad.
The wave ball.
Yeah, exactly, man. You'll see those occasionally at a pickup basketball run. Somebody brings in the Wilson Jet Wave, but I don't think that's what they're referring to.
I got no idea what that is. And I've been watching Olympics front to back. Man, it's been fun. So yes, join Skeets, Nora, his lovely wife, and JD nightly through the end of the Olympics. But for now, let's get to some basketball talk because we've got one more group game remaining for each team. It starts tomorrow, Friday, and then Saturday to end it off. So far, group by group has been fun. Let's start with Group A. The group of death, because it has been good. Canada, Spain, Greece, Australia. Canada is 2-0. They're going to the quarterfinals, guaranteed. But when they meet Spain here, they're still playing for where they're ranked. Just quickly on that, based on point differential, U.S. will likely have first seed overall. And if Canada, France, or Germany finish number 2, they can avoid U.S. till the gold medal game. So that's what they're trying to do. Anyways, besides that, in Group A, Spain is 1-1, Australia is 1-1, and Greece 0-2. May not make it, does not look good. What stood out to you about this group, Trey?
Well, I think Group A has lived up to the hype as the group of death. All 4 teams, I suppose, are still in the mix. It's going to be tough for Greece to make it to the knockout round, but I suppose they're still alive. And man, I would say Giannis has maybe been the best player in the Olympics so far. He's just having to do quite a lot for this Greece team to pull off some wins. I keep thinking about the game against Canada. Giannis makes an incredible move, probably midway through the 4th quarter. He's got to get through 3 guys. He somehow gets to the rim, barely misses a layup at the hoop. He also missed a couple of free throws late in the 4th quarter. The margin for error is so slim for Greece that Giannis can play an incredible game, can maybe be the MVP of the tournament so far, but a couple of little missteps late, and it's enough for Canada to take the win. I think Canada has played, outside of the Japan versus France game, I think Canada's probably played the 2 most entertaining games between Australia and Greece as well, just staying close and needing to actually pull it out late into the 4th quarter. They've been really fun to watch. And, you know, everybody thought this group was going to be the group to watch coming in. It definitely has been.
Yeah, Canada has to play really well against every single team they play. So it starts off in these 40-minute games as an important play right from the get-go because you can't screw up. And Yeah, you talk about Giannis. It has sucked for Greece because, yeah, he missed 2 layup attempts. And I know that's what people are talking about. But like you said, he has to go through 3 guys, through 4 guys. And then he ends up in that game against Canada with 34 on 11 of 17 shooting. But people still talk about those missed shots because the dudes around him weren't able to produce. The guards just couldn't get it done because Canada's guards are ready to go from the get-go, especially defensively. They've got this incredible hierarchy, and everybody's just playing on this ultra team level that they don't need to necessarily play at in or play with in NBA ball. Like they just have this hierarchy right from the get-go. Like Shea is even different. Shea is smiling after he hits a basket from the get-go. Like he's not usually that kind of like smiley, intense guy, but they've got this hierarchy. And then it's Lou Dort and Dylan Brooks who look like, FIBA Brooks and FIBA Dort, they look at like on a different level. And so the Greek guards just needed to help a guy who scored 34 points, and they absolutely couldn't. They each hit one shot late, but that was their only shot. Nick Calathes, and the guy who has become Greek, Thomas Walkup, he only hit one shot right at the end of the game. And that's because Dort and Brooks were real good. They look different, man. They look different in this game to go along with Shea. Obviously, they're just ready to go. And that's the great thing about Olympic basketball, I should say. Every team ready to go right from the get go, and it's fun.
Yeah, and it's fun to see the different roles that the players step into away from their NBA teams playing for the national team. Like RJ Barrett is suddenly Jimmy Butler for the Canadian team. You got Dort and Dylan Brooks. The way that FIBA basketball is officiated really plays into their hands because they can be so aggressive and physical off the ball that it allows them to play the defense that they thrive in even more so than in the NBA. I love that play against Australia where Dort picks up Giddey, former Oklahoma City teammates at the top of the key. Dort just takes the ball from Giddey and goes down the other end, slams it down, and then kicked his feet like he was running in air like Fred Flintstone while he was hanging on the rim. I thought that was pretty sweet. Yeah, outside of Shea getting into foul trouble against Australia, a hot start for the Boomers. Giddey looked really solid in the first half. The Canadian defense, I think, has been really, really good when it comes down to crunch time. They've got 2 perimeter guys who can guard. The inside maybe is going to be a problem. You saw Giannis able to, waltz through the team at times, but they're smart enough that they can make the defense tough with triple teams and scheming and that sort of stuff. Canada looks like one of the 4 medal contenders out there. To me, there have been basically 4 teams, I think, that are in the mix right now. Maybe Serbia gets there as well, but it's like the U.S., Canada, Germany, and then I still got a little bit of France optimism for that team. But Canada looks to be, I would be feeling good if I were you and if I were Skeets, because not only is Canada winning, they're having to go through some tough games and make important plays down the stretch of these.
Yes, luckily I can call myself Canadian because I can call myself Greek as well, and that's not going to end well for Greece because we saw what Canada was able to do against those Greek guards and against Australia. Canada has just been so good, as you said. Those turnovers that they forced, Australia had 18 in just 40 minutes. It's very impressive stuff. The question was, are they big enough? And I thought the move of playing Kem Birch, former NBAer, as the backup guy against Australia because he is big and strong and able to get inside over Kelly Olynyk or over Trey Lyles was important because they were able to stretch the floor inwards, instead of having to shoot all these three ball shots that they depend on with Shea and Dort and Brooks and Nikhil Alexander-Walker and RJ Barrett, RJ Barrett, as you said, looks like a different guy. And against Australia, he had 24, 7 boards, 5 assists. The quick decisions, it's different than his New York / Toronto games because he relies, I think, like you said, with a different pecking order, a different scheme. He's got to make quick decisions. His off-ball cutting has been great. His slashing has been great. The drives, and he's been just reading defenses really well and really fast. And that's what the Raptors hope to see when they've got a different pecking order. Hopefully, Barnes and Quickly, if they can take another step, and him and those 2 and RJ Barrett could be a different threesome. But they have been awesome in general. And yes, like Spain was really good in these games, even though Santi Aldama took one on the head from Giannis, which was super fun.
That was nice.
But I gotta just get your total opinion on Josh Giddey. I know you said he had a good start in that game through his 2 games. I have to ask because he's a Bulls player now, which is super
He's a
weird.
Bull.
Yeah. What do you think overall of Giddey through 2 games?
I think we're seeing from Josh Giddey what we're going to see during the regular season with Chicago. A lot of numbers, maybe not resulting in wins, but when he has the ball, the guy can make plays. He's obviously got size. There was that famous Twitter clip going around a couple of seasons ago. Josh Giddey has no moves. Like he never does crossovers, spin moves, anything. He just is a big guard, so he shoots floaters over the top. I don't know. I think he's a better FIBA player than he probably is an NBA player, but my guess is that he's going to put up stats for the Bulls once the season comes around because he'll likely have the ball in his hands, and maximizing Giddey means letting him be a playmaker. What does that mean for Chicago? I don't think it means we're going to be looking for another play-in victory necessarily, but, you know, when you're a fan of a bad team and you can see a player doing well in the Olympics, you got to at least act like it means something. Like I've seen you tweeting about Dyson Daniels and how great this guy looks playing for Australia. It's like, who's going to actually carry it over into the NBA season? Is it going to be Giddey or is it going to be Daniels? Because I think they both looked solid.
They have, yeah. The good thing about Giddey is that he knows how to play off the ball playing with Shea. And so when Kobe White or Zach LaVine, if that's what the starting lineup is in Chicago, who knows? He has been making good baseline cuts. Like one of the first buckets of this tournament for him was coming off the baseline. But then there's times when he handles the ball and he can finish really nicely, but he tries to make these super fancy passes that are just a little too much to ask. You're going behind the back into the lane for what reason? It doesn't work out. But some of these pick and rolls that he's playing with those bigs are good, but sometimes he'll travel, sometimes he'll charge into guys. So yeah, it's going to be a balance there with Kobe White and Zach LaVine. That's going to be not full of wins, I don't think. But like, yeah, watching him play beside Dyson Daniels, who I like coming over for DeJounte Murray because with the Hawks, he is clearly the number 2 guy, the guy who doesn't need to dribble the ball all that much, but he can a little bit. Like with New Orleans, he was behind CJ McCollum, Jose Alvarado, and then even Brandon Ingram and Herb Jones were starting at the 2-3. So he wasn't playing a lot, but just watching him in this game or this tournament, it makes sense to have him beside Trae Young, the way he plays, because he can nail threes, even though that 3-point shot percentage ain't all that good, but he plays defense. He's a better defender than DeJounte Murray. Like he stole that ball from Lorenzo Brown, like 60 feet from his bucket, and he gets after it and he can finish. We had some finishes, but he's just such a good defender. Like last year in limited minutes, he was up in deflections, almost a steal and a half. So yeah, who knows how it'll turn out beside Trey, but it is a good lineup. It is a good match. I think it makes a lot more sense with a guy who wants to handle the ball all the time in Trae Young. Anyways, enough Hawks talk.
People are coming here to get that Bulls and Hawks talk on August 1st, 2024. They're dying for it. But if you want to go for some real deep cuts, Tas, I do love seeing Sergio Llull and Rudy Fernandez leading Spain to win. Sergio Llull is my favorite guy who never actually made it over to the NBA. I know he was like a Rockets draft pick many moons ago from the Daryl Morey days, and they had his his rights for such a long time, but he shoots the ball like 30 feet in the air when he's shooting his 3-pointers. He looks like if Javier Bardem was a basketball player. Very unique. And he plays with such flair that I love that him and Rudy are still good enough for Spain that they're sticking around. Like they said, this was Rudy Fernandez's 6th Olympics. Insane stuff. And, you know, they got a nice win as well against Greece. Aldama was good. Willie Hernan Gomez is pretty solid. They still got a chance as well. So I don't know. Spain is a team I always got respect for from the Redeem Team days, the Ricky Rubio days. And it's cool to see some of those guys just still sticking around.
That's true. Yeah. Seeing Rudy, seeing Sergio Llull run into Matthew Dellavedova is still playing for Australia, coming off the bench. Will Magne's mustache in Australia is really fun. But I just like how they play 5 men out, and everybody's always moving, as I said about Josh Giddey in that first play, how there's baseline cuts, like they're running off the ball at all times. And Patty Mills is running at all times, like from the get-go. So it's a little less like NBA ball where there's isolation stuff that happens in an NBA. Here, it's like what Kevin Durant was saying when he was bickering about somebody on Twitter the last couple of days. He said, "Come on, man. It's this great basketball. We don't need to call plays. It's just 5 out, and we run in transition, and we play." And people are confused by that on Twitter. And then he just tells them to shut up. Kevin Durant just being his old Twitter self. It's pretty fun. Anyways, quickly before we get to Group C, I want to go to Group C next. Ash, you got anything to say, or are you sitting this one out as we just babble about anybody? Josh Giddey, Dyson Daniels.
You order a Dyson Daniels Hawks jersey yet?
No, not yet. But I like Dyson Daniels. But I mean,
yeah.
Anything to add? Not really. I would say that you're talking about Rudy Fernandez. Love a Rudy Fernandez. Wish he was in the league a lot longer. Just love Rudy Fernandez. Josh Giddey. Trey, do you think Josh can be a good replacement for Lonzo right now? That's the real question. I've been thinking that since he got there. I'm like, hey, can he be like what Lonzo was doing before he got hurt? The Bulls looked pretty good when Lonzo was there.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea that the Bulls, 2.5 years later, finally got a starting point guard. Literally, their team was better when Patrick Beverley was starting at point guard. They just need a legitimate point guard. I don't know. I think Giddey is the perfect guy to bring in for a team that wants to be in the lottery, but doesn't want to be the worst team in the lottery. They'll just be one of the lottery teams and hope to get lucky.
All right.
Well, let's get to Group C. America is what we have to talk about here. They're 2-0, beating Serbia and South Sudan. South Sudan and Serbia have a big game coming up. They're both 1-1, and it was fun to watch the U.S. play South Sudan. And obviously Jokic's Serbia that I think got better in Game 2 when they were able to take out Puerto Rico, who is now 0-2. So what has stood out to you about this U.S. team, Trey?
Two main things have stuck out to me for Team USA. Number one is that they have the appropriate respect for the Olympics. Serbia came in second in the World Cup last year. I think they were number 1 in FIBA basketball rankings. They got Nikola Jokic, a guy who gets respect from Team USA and probably a guy that Team USA really wants to beat since he's considered the best player in the world. They came in, they smacked down Serbia. South Sudan earned the U.S.'s respect playing that game in the Olympics preseason, basically. Losing by 1, came down to the last shot, gave the U.S. quite a scare. So clearly they got the U.S.'s attention. The U.S. came out in the actual Olympics, and they were pressuring the ball full court. You got Anthony Davis diving on the floor. You got Anthony Edwards picking up full court, getting steals in the back court. Devin Booker's moving the ball. To me, the team is taking the Olympics seriously, and that's like the number one key, is giving the effort necessary to win, treating these teams like they could beat you on any given night, because as we've seen in previous Olympics, previous international competitions, that is the case. Number two, they're actually shooting the three-pointer well. 18 of 32 against Serbia, 13 of 30 against South Sudan. They did go through a stretch in the second half against South Sudan where they couldn't buy a bucket. But I think in general, the U.S. is going to force turnovers, which they've been doing. If they're hitting threes, they're a really tough team to beat because they're so deep. They're bringing Kevin Durant off the bench. That guy hadn't played 5-on-5 basketball in months. He finally gets on the court 8 for 8 in the first half, looking like the best Olympian who's ever played, and he might very well be the best Olympian basketball player. So yeah, Team USA, they're taking care of business. They're serious about it. And I don't think we've seen them play an A game yet.
Yeah.
But they're at least solidly in the Bs, sometimes a B+.
It's unfair to have, Kevin Durant coming off the bench, the 5 guys who are coming off the bench in either game just come off and they realize that this isn't like the NBA where they have to save a little energy for the fourth quarter because they're going to need some offensive plays. They can just go hard on that defensive end every single possession. And these guys are talented and athletic enough to be very good defenders. And obviously they can score. So there's just too much talent on that team. Like I did find it funny in the second half of the South Sudan game when the 5 came off the bench in in a hockey change. All 5 guys came off, and they came on. Were the guys who are Durant, as you said, he's their 6th man. Anthony Edwards, Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Bam Adebayo. I mean, they're just so damn good. It was funny to hear Anthony Edwards say, "Yeah, it was fun. Hell yeah." I mean, we've got 3 great defenders, 4 actually, with Bam. And I'm thinking, who's the guy he's leaving out? Who's not the good defender? And then he went on. Bam switches 1 through 5, and he can sit down and guard. So we've got 4 great defenders, and then KD is super long. So KD is left out. Anthony Edwards thinks him, Drew, Derek White, Bam Adebayo are the foursome. And then Derek White, he kind of said the same thing, that he goes, I mean, playing with Drew has been a blessing every day. Obviously, Bam is one of the best bigs defending 1 through 5. KD with his length is a problem, and Ant is special too. And Ant, he's good too. But just to add to that, I mean, all these guys are great. And there was the question, why is Derek White being added over Jaylen Brown? Well, because he's just so damn smart defensively at all times. Like, he had 3 steals in that game in 17 minutes and a monstrous block in that game. You mentioned Anthony Davis's block early in this game. And like, even the first possession, he just shut down the guy who tried to drive him from the 3-point line and in, former Laker Wenyen Gabriel. I mean, he just stayed down on everybody. And he had that time where South Sudan was trying to run a fast break. Like, they were just running from their end. And Anthony Davis faked it. He faked it like he was running up the floor, but it was like a Kawhi Leonard where he had his back to the ball and then turned around and stole it. Embiid probably wouldn't do that. To get all personal. I know everybody's talking about why is Embiid starting? He's not playing well. It has been interesting, not just because Embiid had a DNP in game 2, but because he was supposed to play for France, because he did say he was going to play for France, and then he comes out in front of the fans and they're all booing him. So that part has been interesting to me. But either way, 12 guys that are just too damn good. And like you said, they haven't had their best game yet. So
no, I don't think so. And if I'm looking long term, like, I would kind of rather have gone through the path that the Canadian team has. They've actually played a couple of games where they had to come through in the clutch. So far for the US, there have been some moments, I suppose, where it looks like they are trending the wrong way, right? Like, South Sudan cut the lead to 10 in the second half. So they, were able to battle back a little bit before the US stepped on the gas. But it would be nice to see them actually have to play a crunch time 5, run some crunch time offense rather than just freelancing out there. Maybe the fact that they don't really have history with Puerto Rico yet means that Puerto Rico is going to play their best game of the Olympics against the US, which then puts the US in maybe some adverse situations where they got to come through. But it's also quite likely that they don't actually see their first tense moments until the knockout round. And then it's the knockout round. What if it goes poorly? You never know. But I think a solid start for the US. They got 12 guys who have to figure out a way to play 200 minutes, which is why the biggest news for the US so far has been who hasn't been playing. It was Tyrese Halliburton and Jayson Tatum in game 1. It was Embiid in game 2. And Steve Kerr basically said, we just wanted to be faster playing against South Sudan, which I think makes sense when you watched how the friendly game against them went when they were playing 5 out, trying to break everybody down off the dribble. Going to a switchier lineup with AD made sense. It's just pretty unusual that Team USA went out of their way to actually recruit a player, Joel Embiid, an MVP, and suddenly this guy's getting DMPs. But it seems to me Steve Kerr is managing this kind of thing, apparently going to Tatum and telling him, you're probably not going to be playing this game. We've got 2 big forwards in front of you in LeBron and KD. And then going to Embiid and saying, we're going with our smaller, switchier guys and Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo, who looks to be an incredible FIBA player as well. I guess Drew Holiday is going to be starting against Puerto Rico. Joel Embiid is going to be starting against Puerto Rico per our Joe Varden over at The Athletic. I just hope Embiid has some moments for Team USA, because when you look at the way the team is built, it seemed like they're going to need a guy like Embiid to play against Nikola Jokic from Serbia. He didn't have a great game against Serbia at all. They need Embiid for those sizier matchups. Surely they're going to run into one of those teams come the knockout round, and hopefully Embiid is able to step to the challenge.
Yeah, hopefully Embiid has a good game. As you said, they yanked him pretty quickly in that first game, and Anthony Davis came on and was awesome. So he sat for, I guess it was math time, like, like 15 minutes of game time in that first half. And yeah, the matchup was better for Anthony Davis in South Sudan to have somebody a little bit quicker on their feet than Joel Embiid. But yeah, the Embiid Jokic matchup, maybe if they need it, will be important. As you said, it's going to be fun to watch Puerto Rico. They beat the U.S. a long, long, long time ago. So I'm sure they'll be confident going up against this U.S. team. Just to watch them should be fun. Yes. And as you said, like Jokic hasn't played his greatest game yet. He was much better against Puerto Rico than he was against America. The passing was ridiculous off the board, dribbling, pushing it, but he hasn't had to play that much. So this is a fun group as well. It's likely that Puerto Rico won't make it out into the quarterfinals because just a quick summary of how it works. 3 groups, top 2 make it from each group, and then 2 third-place teams make it based on tiebreakers. I don't want to get into the tiebreakers. I saw our man Prada do that on The Athletic. That's good enough for me. Mike Prada broke it all down, but it's really going to come down to point differential, which is wild to think about. But in this group, it's the U.S. for sure, and then it could be both Serbia and South Sudan, but that game is big coming up this weekend, and that's why, yeah, Greece has a chance in Group A, as we talked about. But anyway, the games have been fun, and I got to ask you, Ash, because I know you've been watching and you've been enjoying the broadcasting that's been happening out there. Any thoughts on that, or just the U.S. in general?
Before I get to the broadcasting, I'll say the U.S. Trey's talking about these crunch time minutes if we see them in the knockout stages, right? And I just wonder, people always are questioning Steve Kerr and his coach's decisions sometimes. And I just wonder, what happens when we get into a clutch game in a knockout round? Who's the go-to guy? Can they figure it out? Are we just going to go to LeBron and say, LeBron, do it? And can he do it every single time? Or, is it Anthony Edwards time? Is it KD time? Or do they fight over it? What does that look like? Because right now, they're not really worried. They're even in the exhibition games when it came down to 1 point and they did give the ball to LeBron against South Sudan, is this really, what are we going to do? That's my biggest concern with the U.S. going into the knockout stages. Now, as far as the commentary, what a great tandem. Am I wrong or am I right? Dwayne Wade and Noah Eagle, little Eagle, they just are killing little birdie, right? They're killing the call right now. They have me cracking up all the time. Is anybody else enjoying it as much as me? Or
yeah, I think they've been awesome. I mean, Noah Eagle is a bit of a known quantity. He's like a radio broadcaster, that kind of stuff, but he has been perfect. I think he's obviously pretty knowledgeable and has been really fun and into it. And then Wade, I think, has been really fun to hear. He doesn't, I feel like, do the traditional or basketball media stuff, right? When he signed his deal with Turner, it was yeah, I'll appear on Inside every now and then, but I also want to host the Cube. So to have him there doing color commentary and to see how excited he is about the game, he's got a great voice to it. He obviously knows the guys really well, has history with Team USA. I've been enjoying Wade on the call as well.
Yeah, this is Wade's first time doing games like this before, and he's natural, and he's not stodgy, where you have to say the thing that you're supposed to say.
Right.
He's just fun, and he makes jokes. He's full of jokes. So yeah. He's a natural.
That's what I was about to say. I think Dwayne Wade and Noah Eagle, they kind of sound younger, and it's kind of refreshing, right? My buddy was here yesterday. We were watching the game, and he goes, maybe I'm happy NBC is getting the rights for basketball as long as these two are coming along, just because they are kind of refreshing. Even Noah Eagle, he's saying all the things that you would say a young person would be saying on these calls, and calling Bam Bamonte on the on the call. I don't know. I just really been enjoying it. I love their banter, and I am excited. I hope that they are the primetime guys for whenever the NBC starts airing games next year.
Yeah, Wade'll do some games, but like Trey said, he wants to do other stuff. He wants to do the Cube. No, he's not gonna do every week. I don't think. But Noah Eagle's got to do a lot of them. You're right. They sound younger. I thought Noah Eagle because I know his dad, because we've been watching this game for so long, and Noah Eagle has like come along as a broadcaster. I thought his voice would be higher, I guess,
Me
for
too.
some reason, because I'm dumb. But he's a man. I mean, why would his voice be higher?
Our voice is genetic. I don't know. I
He
mean,
sounds just like him.
he does sound very similar. I feel like, and I don't know. Like when I'm thinking about my dad, he's got a high pitched voice for being a big guy, just like me. So maybe the vocal cords are genetic as well.
Yeah, they're solid. They're very solid. And so has all this basketball. Even Group B, which we'll get to now. France
Even
and
Group B.
Even Group B, because you've got two teams that are 2-0 at the top. France and Germany are the teams going through to the quarterfinals. Now, seeding matters for them, just like we talked about with Canada and all that. It comes down to point differential. Although I do want to talk about France and Japan's finish that people are saying, oh, that's fixed. How does France get a and one on a 3-ball opportunity? Why did that happen? That went to overtime. But anyways, beyond that, Japan and Brazil are both 0-2, and their final game is huge. So, Trey, anything from this group, even Group B, which is, it has been fun. I got to be honest.
Yeah, it's been okay. And luckily, France had that awesome game against Japan. I think we still have Germany versus France to go, right? Since they're both 2-0, they got to face each other eventually. I think that's going to be a fun game to watch because Germany just looks great. They won the World Cup last year. They've got a very similar team. They're a well-oiled machine. They know how to play FIBA basketball. They've got their roles. You got Daniel Tice catching alley-oops. Like, what year is this? We got Daniel Tice. He's another guy who's awesome in FIBA and then just a regular dude in the NBA. So he's been good. And then France, like I said, their guards are not great. That's their weakness. They got Victor up front. They got Rudy up front. Even Yabusele's been playing pretty solid in the front court as a wing guy, I think. But I still got fear of Evan Fournier, if I'm being honest. He had 28 against Team USA in the opener to the Olympics back in Tokyo. He can get hot, and if it's at the right time, I still think France is more of a dark horse at this point for a medal. But it'll be fun to see them play against the other good team in their group in Germany, just to kind of see as a measuring stick, how good is Germany? Does France actually have a chance going forward? Because I don't necessarily know that we know a ton about this group, though France did get very lucky, I think, to escape with that win against Japan. And it starts with, why are you triple teaming Rudy Gobert at the rim? On the pass out to Strazel, I believe was his name, that ended up getting the 4-point play. Rudy Gobert had the ball 3 feet from the hoop. 3 Japanese players surround him. Either foul him or just let him shoot it, man. You don't need to be going in on Rudy like that.
Yeah, when you have a 4-point lead, that was a confusing play. It was a weird ending because Japan looked like they were done. Rui Hachimura fouled out early in the fourth quarter, and then it came down to that 4-point play to send them to overtime. And every game does matter, although hopefully, one of these two teams in Japan and Brazil have a good final game for them. And Japan, I've always been a Utah Watanabe fan, so I'm cheering for him. He had 16 in the first game. I didn't know about Hugh Watanabe. Hugh Watanabe blocked Rudy Gobert. No relation to Utah Watanabe. None. But they have the same last name. And he blocked Rudy really nicely in that game. But it is fun just to see Wemby out there. Like the first play of the Olympics, he tries to step back 3 because he's that good. He did miss, but he's like doing fun stuff, like throwing it to himself off the board and ending with 18 points, dunking above the rim. And as Dwayne Wade said, when he was asked by Noah Eagle, have you ever seen that? Where like the dunk was like elbow to the rim. And he's like, yeah, I've seen it in one time, that animated movie. That's the only time that he saw it, like way back when. So it was fun. It was just fun to see Wemby out there going up against 5'4" Yuki Togashi. That was also fun, which was weird.
Insane picture.
So
funny.
Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, it is interesting. Like you said, France hasn't really been all that great, but to see them up against Germany, who Dwayne Wade thought was the best team to beat the USA because they have this sort of pecking order like the USA team does. I think the U.S. will just, throw out Drew Holiday or Derek White or whoever, and then let your scorers score. France kind of has that with with Franz doing his thing and with Schroeder doing his thing. So they do have that good balance anyway, but they do need some more reps. So this France-Germany game is going to be good.
Yeah, should be awesome. Wemby, I think, has been pretty solid. I thought it was interesting that in the second half against Japan, Rudy Gobert went to the bench, just went one big guy for France with Wemby out there. He had an awesome start to that game, kind of fell away in the middle portion of it. And then he scored the first 8 or something in overtime. This guy's playing in his first Olympics in a transitional period almost for France, when the previous generation of, Fournier, Batum, Gobert is at the end of their Olympics runs. He's just starting his international career. They had the top 2 draft picks this year, neither of which are playing for France right now. They had the number 6 pick as well. I know there are additional French players who are draft prospects in the next couple of years, not to mention the guy like the Knicks stashed this year. Like, France is going to be a team to be reckoned with at the next Olympics when Wemby's, 4 years into his NBA career. And then when you think when he's likely in the prime of his career, 27 years old or something like that, another 4 years from there. So we're talking 2032. That's a long time to project, but man, the French team is going to be nasty. I wonder if this will go down as their golden generation in the future.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, we'll see if we get a FIBA Fournier later in this tournament, because this is probably his last one, and he hasn't been the same guy for the Knicks. But yeah, it's a good point about all the guys who were drafted and just getting better and better and better as a country. It's a different squad. Moving on to a little more basketball. Just a note on the 3-on-3. Because I don't usually watch this when it comes to Olympics ball, but the American men's and women's teams are winless. The women are 0-3 and the men 0-2. Women just finished their game, so they're now up to or down to 0-3, depending on how you look at it. What is going on? And have you watched any, Trey?
I like 3x3 basketball, but it makes me feel old, Tas. They only say 3x3 now. If you say 3-on-3,
yeah,
you sound like you're from the 1900s. But man, it's fun to watch. It's so fast. And I don't know, when I look at Team USA, there are things happening on the court and things that are happening off the court. And I think it's kind of like similar problems for both teams. Like the best offensive player for Team USA, men's and women's, it's probably Jimmer Fredette for the men, Ryan Howard, an Atlanta Dream player for the women. Neither of them has shot the ball all that well. When you're watching the men play, the opponents never want to give up a 3-point, or I guess a 2-pointer to Jimmer. So they're running him off the line, and the team isn't necessarily equipped right now to do that second side action because they haven't played together all that often, because it's similar to the way the national teams work for the 5x5 games, where if you're playing Serbia's 3x3 team, they're playing together year round. They're generating these points that are necessary to be eligible for 3x3 competition, because if you don't, you can't actually play. It's not like if Paolo Banchero gets cut from the 5-on-5 team that he can just go into 3-on-3. You got to have played in World Cups and previous tournaments and earning enough points and rankings to be actually eligible for this team. So when they're just thrown together for the Olympics, they don't necessarily have a chance to work on their second side actions or their defensive rotations. You see a lot of miscommunications defensively for both teams. So I think the fact that the team looks rusty to start on both sides is because they aren't playing together all that often. I think that the way the selection process works makes it so the USA method of just putting the team together for this tournament maybe doesn't encourage long-term success, because you would think the way to do it would be similar to when Jerry Colangelo took over Team USA back in like 2008, where they're like, you have to be part of this cycle, buy in for now. I wonder if that's something that USA players would ever be interested in. Like, I don't know, Kyle Kuzma. He'll probably not really make the men's national team. But what if he decided, I'm going to be the best 3x3 player in American history, and devoted himself to the 2028 Olympics and getting his ranking high enough, playing in a World Cup in the summer or something like that, so that he gets a ranking, and then they have, more established NBA players? I don't know. It doesn't seem to be a priority for Team USA's basketball squads right now. Whereas in other countries, that is a priority to be just as good in 3x3 as they are in 5x5.
Yeah, that is a very good point, because you see teams taking out America that have naturalized citizens that are originally American. So they're getting better for this 3-on-3 tournament, because I do see the graphic, and I was looking at my notes before starting talking, and I said 3x3. Is that how you say it? I'm not gonna say it that way. 3-on-3. But I haven't been listening to any broadcast talking about weird sports. I played a cornhole game and then went to a bar and then watched Jimmer Fredette get schooled in 3-on-3, but they didn't sound up, or you couldn't hear it. Volume was not up. I guess, like you said, it's not a priority. It's not a priority for the bars to turn up the volume on 3x3 or 3-on-3. So yeah, you are getting a subpar team. But as like you said about the shots that aren't going down, Canyon Barry, who is on the American team, just said, hopefully our shots start to fall soon, because that's just not happening. And yeah, that was evident with Jimmer, and they still can do extremely well. There's lots of games left.
They still have 5 pool play games left.
Yeah, I've read that. It's like, what?
It's a huge tournament.
Yeah, they just keep going and going and going. Esh, any 3-on-3 info?
I really like 3x3. No, but I don't know. The men, they've medaled in the past couple of competitions, like with the World Cup and the Olympics. They've won a gold and 2 silvers. You wouldn't expect them to struggle as much. I know you guys are talking about the continuity, I guess, but some of the guys have been there. And then as far as the women too, like they just won gold last year, I think, in the World Cup. Haley Van Lith was there. Cameron Brink was a big part of that team too, and obviously she's hurt and she's out. But I just wonder if that's got something to do with it, with the women, like Cameron Brink not being there. They added Ryan Howard. You would expect them to be a little bit better. You would expect them to at least have won a game at this point, but I honestly have no idea what it is. Maybe it is the continuity. Maybe they need bigger NBA stars, WNBA stars to step in and play. Just so we can look a little bit better. You would think we'd be a little bit better in this, but as Trey knows, as I know, because we've played in a tournament that was kind of like this, 3-on-3, 3x3, 3x3 basketball is way different than playing 5-on-5 basketball. And I don't know, I guess if you're not like extremely accustomed to it, like maybe Ryan Howard is just kind of getting thrown in there, and some of the other guys for the men, maybe it takes a minute to get accustomed to. So I don't know, maybe that's their excuse, but I expect better from USA when it comes to basketball.
That's exactly right, Ash. We expect better. Hopefully they'll be better by the end of the tournament. But, 5 games is a lot more games. But will it matter? I don't know. I guess we'll see. You got to start making some shots, though, because it definitely feels more like just when you watch like USA versus Serbia, it looks like Serbia knows what they're doing every single time, whereas USA is kind of winging it a little bit and hoping that they can get Canyon Barry to the free throw line to shoot some underhanders.
Yeah.
Wild to see, man. Underhanders are back in the Olympics.
Is that a new sport, underhand free throwing? Because I do want to watch breakdancing, that's for sure. Starting soon. There's some weird sports out there, but yeah, 3-on-3, 3x3 has been good for America until now, until this year. So other than that, they have produced a lot of misses, including a wedgie. So there's been misses, and this one that we're showing to you on YouTube, the ball is also so different, man.
Oh, the ball is a wave. You're talking about the wave. It's the wave.
Yeah, it's crazy though, because it's got, it looks like it's a Wilson, right? It looks like there's a W on the side.
Wave is the brand?
No, I'll tell Wilson is the brand, but it has the colors, or the paneling is different than like the molten ball, right? I don't know.
That part's the wave
and it's got the grooves built into it.
This is what I learned about the ball today. So men and women both play with the women's sized ball, but the men's ball is weighted as if it was a men's sized ball, but they're smaller. That's what I learned about today. And it is a Wilson wave, like the OG wave from the mid 2000s that we were playing with, that we were playing with in middle school. So yeah, I
can't believe the wave is back. That is different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on from the Olympics, let's get to a couple NBA transactions that happened. Tyus Jones being signed by the Phoenix Suns. Some calling it the steal of the offseason because Tyus Jones signed to a 1-year, $3.3 million contract. A cheapie, a minimum deal for Tyus Jones. What do you think, Trey?
Gary Trent Jr., eat your heart out. We got a new best cheap signing in town. It's got to be Tyus Jones. I think this is a great late July find for Phoenix. I mean, the talk all of last season, and it even got amplified, I thought, in the playoffs, is that Phoenix needed a point guard just to get everybody organized, to get everybody in the right spots, to get everybody their shots and their looks. They went out and addressed it probably the best way they could. You know, the Suns don't have a ton of money to spend. They don't have a lot of assets to trade. And they've got 3 guys in Booker, Beal, and Durant who are going to have the ball a ton. So to find a guy like Tyus Jones, who's kind of an old school, take care of the ball, hit open shots, and move it kind of point guard, I think is huge. I'm a little unsure about him starting, though, if I'm being honest, Tas. It seems like that's part of the reason he went to Phoenix, was he was planning or like promised a starting spot, which makes sense. They do need a point guard, but then it means they're going to be starting Tyus Jones, Booker, Beal, Durant, and Nurkic. That's 3 guards. Kevin Durant is the 5th best defender on Team USA's bench. Nurkic is a solid center, not anything great to write home about defensively. He's just okay. So I'm like, that's a very small team, not a lot of defenders. I'm kind of like wondering, what does Bradley Beal even do? He was supposed to be a big time ball handler for them. Last season, he looked lost, I thought, last year, just kind of hanging around Durant, hanging around Booker, not really knowing where to be. And I kind of feel like he's going to get squeezed a little bit here because he's like a catch and shoot guy now? It's kind of odd to me, but I still think good find for the Suns.
Yeah, the lineup is definitely a question, and their defense is definitely a question. They managed to bump it up to a 13th ranking last year with Grayson Allen in the starting lineup beside Beal, Booker, Durant, and Nurkic. So they should be very similar. Their bench is a lot stronger now with Tyus Jones in the starting lineup. Grayson Allen, I guess, is going to the bench. So you've got obviously a guy who can score a ton. And yeah, a bunch of like defensive minded guys coming off the bench that Mike Budenholzer will go to, like Okogie. Mason Plumlee is their backup center, and they've got Monte Morris as a signing, which was also a good deal. But as you said, Tyus Jones had other offers for multiple years. He said when he was interviewed, I saw this on ESPN. Yeah, he said, "I'm starting, and that's part of why I'm coming," because he gets a 1-year deal, and then next year, he hopes to make some money like everybody else is making in the NBA. So that's why he went shorter on this one, because the other teams that were offering him multiple years but not all that much money. So that's what he's going for. Plus, he's going for an opportunity here. Like, I picked this team going into the playoffs, and he thinks that they can have a chance because they were a solid team, but they lost their identity. And the good guys, like we're watching Devin Booker right now and Kevin Durant play for the U.S. team. Devin Booker's hitting those threes, and nobody's jumping up more than his teammate Kevin Durant. Those guys have to shoot more. As you said while we were watching this team in the playoffs, like they just simply have to shoot more. So Beal, yeah, he is going to be cut out a little bit, it feels like. But also, it makes sense. I mean, Beal, he was great shooting the 3. He will be better defensively, even not having to carry the ball. So this is good for them. That being said, they are small, so that there is that issue. And Yusuf Nurkic, he does get hurt sometimes. So there's questions. They don't have a ton of depth, but this is a good move.
They don't have a ton of depth, but I think they do have more depth, at least regular season wise, than they had last season. They won 49 games last year with a ton of injuries and what ultimately turned out to be a pretty shallow team. So I think getting Morris and Plumlee off the bench, this move with Tyus Jones means that Grayson Allen likely goes to the bench as well. They are a deeper team. We'll see what it's like in the playoffs. I don't know that Tyus Jones is going to make a huge difference for them. He hasn't shot the ball very well in the postseason, and he's a smaller guy. But for a regular season team, I think with these moves, with the bench moves, bringing in Budenholzer, the Suns are definitely better than they were last year.
Yeah, they are getting a guy here who is acting a little bit like, some of these greats on the U.S. team that they've added, like Derek White. Just be that guy. You don't have to shoot all the time. Just be there to support and hopefully be as good a defender as Derek White. I mean, I don't know why I said Derek White specifically, because he ain't Derek White, but he's the guy that will not turn it over and hold on to the ball, because they really weren't getting the ball in the right place in the postseason. And they're all worn down as well. So it does give them a little bit more help. As you mentioned, the Plum Dog, Mason Plumlee, you got to like him. He's doing good things in his career. So that being said, there was another move. The New York Knicks brought Precious Achiuwa back to be their backup center that we've all been wondering about, with Isaiah Hartenstein leaving. Obviously, Mitchell Robinson is their number one guy, but we're wondering about the backup center spot and Precious coming back on a 1-year, $6 million deal. What do you think, Trey?
I think this makes a lot of sense. Once Isaiah Hartenstein went to the Thunder, it kind of seemed like it was only a matter of time before the Knicks and Precious were able to agree on some sort of deal. And now the Knicks at least have their start of the season big man rotation ready, and Mitch Robinson, Precious, and Jericho Sims. Precious, not great size, but he does give New York a little bit different look as a center. They'll be able to switch when he's playing rather than Mitchell Robinson. I guess, if they run into a really big team, maybe they could try him alongside Mitchell Robinson if they can figure out a way to get enough shooting on the court as well. And then the Knicks still have assets if they decide they want an even bigger guy off their bench. I don't know if they're going to try and make a run at like a Walker Kessler or something like that, but it's something they could do in the season. But the biggest question mark the Knicks had at this point of the summer was who's their backup center. They've got their backup center. They got their third string center. They've been there already. Precious and Sims both have, so they know what Tom Thibodeau expects. Precious had some decent moments, I thought, in the playoffs. He's an up and down kind of guy, but if he's going to be your backup center, he'll probably have to start at some point during the year if Mitchell Robinson picks up an injury here and there. So I think he's a solid backup kind of guy, and a good deal for him for the Knicks. If he outplays this one, they probably lose him next summer, but that's something to worry about down the line.
Yeah, the Tibbs effect is real watching Precious Achiuwa play. He plays different than he did in Toronto. Like, he doesn't have that same role. He doesn't have the same expectation upon himself. So he was just good at filling the role of their backup big. And yes, he is not monstrous by any means, but he works so big or so hard as an undersized big. And that's all they need. And I'm really interested to see when Mitchell Robinson is out or Precious Achiuwa is starting or out. Like, if Precious is gone, do they run some Randall at the 5 at times? Anyways, that is us talking about some Hawks, some Bulls, and now some Knicks. So it's a long time away. But Ash, I got to ask you. I didn't bring you in for the Tyus Jones because I thought we had to go real quick. But I should ask you, any NBA talk on for either the Suns or the Knicks?
For Tyus Jones, the only thing I really have to say is that I bet Mo to Kill from The Athletic is super happy because whenever he's on the show, Dave DeFore, Athletic NBA show, you should check it out. He's always talking about how all 30 teams should have been signing Tyus Jones as soon as possible. So I know he's happy about that. And I think it's a good signing. He's a good player. As far as Precious goes, needs some assurance, some insurance for Mitchell Robinson, because inevitably he'll probably hurt during the season. And they need somebody that's going to have to be able to play some backup minutes, and they're probably going to need somebody else. Like you said, this is the beginning of the season signing here, the rotation here. But we'll see what the Knicks do as they go forward.
All right. That's it for us, I think. We'll be back on Monday, August 5th.
I do have some news. I saw some breaking news.
Okay.
I know. We're going to have a new show for this news. Go ahead. Yeah, we're doing it, man.
The news.
I know you know the news and you're not thinking that it's too exciting, but it is so exciting. Go ahead.
Well, Well, now I don't know. The news is that Gordon Hayward is retiring.
Yes, I'm excited. Yes, we need to
close
do a
down
new
the
show.
stream. We got to do an emergency podcast.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna make a bad joke and say that we'll be back August 5th to talk about the end of the group stage and setting up the 4 quarterfinals games. Then back Wednesday and Friday, August 7th and 9th, after the quarterfinals and after the semifinals are done. And I'm sure we'll do a cold and bronze medal game type of show. And also, we're gonna do a Gordon Hayward is retiring show. I guess
tune in Monday for our top 50 Gordon Hayward moments.
Yeah, there weren't many with OKC. Maybe he's got injuries, I guess, but he just wasn't the same guy. So good Gord is gone.
Goodbye, good Gord. I'm with you, Pierre Publico.
Yeah, stream team here, Pierre Publico. Goodbye, good Gord. Great stuff. Very
beautiful.
Good.
Beautiful.
All right, we'll be back on Monday for a show which we probably don't talk at all about Gordon Hayward, but we'll talk about, as I said, 4 quarterfinals games coming up and the end of group stage. That's it for us, Clipper Bros.
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us. And Dwayne Wade asked during Team USA's game against South Sudan, how do you say raise the roof in French? Relevez le toit.
That's good. Relevez le toit. Enjoy the basketball, everybody.